Hey guys. Wow, are there really 8 of you in here already? That's awesome. Cool. If anyone could tell me in the comments how the volume of the background music is right now, that would be great. Ash, thank you if you're still here. Looking forward to getting started here. So I'm giving people time right now to arrive. We'll just give everyone a few minutes and then we'll see. If anyone else is in the comments, I would love to hear who else is here, where you're from, and tell me what you're hoping to learn today. Yo, Heno, the main man Heno is here today. It's Heno's music that we're gonna be mixing today. Morena, thank you for the comment. I will turn that up a little bit. Now, when the actual tutorial video starts, then the audio will be louder, but I'm gonna just give it a little boost now. Let's see. Hi, Marina. G.O. Hi. Good to see you. Karen Elliott. I guess that's Karen Elliott, not Karen Elliott. Cool. Yeah, Heno, thanks for the comment. Heno says, thanks for mixing. I'm already excited to learn something. I'm excited to teach. So when a few more people arrive, I'll start explaining about the session. Just so you know, by the way, I think you guys see my video about 30 seconds or a minute after I speak. So it's crazy delay on this side. Hey everybody, Serley Pishkovotsli. Awesome. Is it possible to invite a friend with the link? Yes, it is. You can invite anybody with that link. It is a private link, but I'm happy for you guys to share that. Cool. Ash, you're asking or giving me some info about what you want to learn. He says, I have a track that doesn't sound like popping when I bounce it, so possibly learning something to improve that. Cool. You'll be learning a lot about mixing today, so it should apply to anything, any kind of music. Cool, guys. So we're coming up to just 2 minutes past. We're gonna start properly at in another 2 minutes, I'd say. Yeah. Anything else that anyone is really keen to learn or to look at today? Giuseppe, yo. Good to see you. Cool. Yes, I just have a track looping in the background. That's one of my own tracks. And I'm going to be using it for a very brief demo before we start the proper tutorial. Cool, guys. So I'm going to get started properly. It's 3 minutes past. Anyone else who comes in, they can just catch up. So let's see. Welcome. I'm excited to be doing this. I've never done a tutorial on YouTube before. This is one of my first experiences of teaching online, and it's really great to see like 15 people in the room right now. So I'm really excited for that. Let me just read Giuseppe's comments and Heno's comments here. Interested in stereo widening and getting crispy drums if possible. And since you work in Ableton, a short look on glue compressor would be nice. Okay, we can do that. Great. So this workshop is in conjunction with the Open Music Lab. I reckon most of you here are familiar with Open Music Lab or came because of Open Music Lab. I've worked with them a couple of times. I've taught in their workshops or taught workshops with them, and it's just always such a lovely vibe there. The students and the staff alike are just awesome people. So I reached out to them to do this series, and we're hoping to create a kind of sense of community here and just keep that going. Obviously it's tough with the times we're in, but these kinds of things are some of the best ways we've got to make connections, and music is about making connections for me. So here we are, and we're going to be doing this every Wednesday for the next 4 weeks, this week included. So four sessions total, a few different kinds of music. Hopefully you can all learn something. Hopefully every week you learn something and you can take it away and experiment and then come back the next week. And that would be really cool. And I think if you have a question in between, you can put it in the Facebook event, and we should be able to get around to that in the following week. And then what else to say? So just to give you an overview of what we're doing today. So in a few minutes, we'll start the main tutorial session. The main tutorial session I actually recorded yesterday, and I'm going to play it as a video. Like, you don't have to change channels or anything. I'll play it from this computer. And during that time, what we'd really like you to do is ask questions in the comments. Anything that comes up as you're listening or watching that's interesting to you, or you want to go deeper on. So the tutorial video will be about 30 minutes, and then after that we're going to have a Q&A session, and I'm going to gather all the questions and get to as many as I can in the remaining time. We're going to go, I think, until about just after 7. I want to get around to as much as possible, and my video turned out a bit longer than I expected. So with that in mind, we'll go over a little. Now, one more thing is, after I made the video, I realized I didn't explain any real basics. I just kind of went in with understanding or belief that everyone was just going to know what an equalizer and a compressor and saturation is. So before we go into the proper tutorial, I'm going to just do like a brief tutorial on EQs, compressors and saturation, and I'm going to use my own track as a little demo of this. So let's have a look at that. It's going to be just a flyby tour of the main processors. Now I'm going to switch the screen, so you should be able to see my Ableton now. Let me know in the comments if that is the case, because this is all new for me. I'm not sure if everything is going perfectly smoothly, but okay. So I'm gonna play my track now very briefly. I'll pump up the volume a little there. And so I have 3 processors here on this track. Thank you. I think that's Gabby telling me we see it. Heno, thanks. Cool. So the first effect we have here, one of the most important mixing tools, is EQ. It's very basic, but it's very advanced at the same time, because there's really no time that you stop learning about EQ and balance. So just in case you've never really seen one before, we can use these nodes to boost and cut. So maybe I want to boost the highs over here, and everything gets a little bit clearer and a little bit nicer. But maybe it makes those hi-hats too sharp, so we can dull it if we want. So cutting high end dulls it out, and then maybe we want to add more bass, so we can come down and boost here, or we can cut and make it thin. Okay, and then this is a compressor here for you guys who've never seen one before. Basically we have a threshold, and anytime the level goes above this threshold, the compressor turns down the volume automatically. The speed at which it turns it down is the attack speed, and I have that set to 12 milliseconds right now. And then the speed at which it lets go after it comes back below the threshold is the release. And what it typically really does is gels the mix together. This preset is called Mix Gel. So I'm going to make that really extreme. So you can hear it kind of just levels out the sound, so it doesn't get as loud and as quiet anymore once we have compression on. And you'll see that I'm going to use that a lot in the main tutorial. It's a huge part of what you do as a mix engineer, using compression to bring out sounds and level everything. And then finally we have a saturator. So we use this to add distortion. This is obviously way too much, but I'm just giving you a demo. It can add just a subtle edge when you use it with restraint. So yeah, that's just a quick flyby tour, and now we'll get started on the main tutorial. Again, as we go along, think about your questions, write them down, give us a little bit of context so that we understand what you're talking about. But I'm really excited for this to start, and so I'll see you on the other side. I'll be reading your questions and taking them down. So here we go. One more thing to note, by the way, is I made it way too long, and then it was about 1 o'clock in the morning, and so I did some cutting. There's a few cuts that are a little bit ungraceful, so just bear with me, and if we skip over something that you really want to know about, just put it in the comments, and I'll get to it after. All right, here we go. So that's it. Yeah, let's do a playthrough. I'm going to A/B between his mix and my renewed mix. Keep an eye on the screen. You'll see when I'm bypassing my effects, we're going to be jumping back to his original mix. So let's get started. This is starting on his mix, and then we'll go before and after. So here's after.
Meine Angst, mich zu stellen mit all
Bevor.
meinen Problemen. Doch du kommst mir entgegen auf all meinen Wegen. Meine Angst, mich zu zeigen, ich weiß auch nicht, wie ich fühl. Doch Geduld, dick ist dein Wesen, ruhig voll Taktgefühl.
Okay, before.
Meine Angst,
After.
dich zu lieben, dich zu küssen, halt mich fest. Meine Seele, stark verschlissen,
Before.
durchzogen von Teer und Pest. Jetzt stehst du vor mir, ich erblicke deine Augen, schwarzes
And after.
ihre Tiefe, löscht mich rein, lässt mich scheinen, ganz unverhofft.
And let's go before.
Doch bin ich da, bei mir allein, meine Gedanken fallen tief.
And after.
Düster sind in Albträume, als ob ich schlief. Weck mich auf, zieh mich raus.
So I'm going to play a little bit more, but I just wanted to give you a way to think about this. The first thing I always would encourage you to do is think about what words you would use to describe the mix, because we're looking to understand whatever your emotional connection to the mix is. I mean, I'm gonna just say when I brought my mix in, it just makes me want to snarl my face, like, you know, just because it really feels like it's more aggressive, and I feel the emotion of the music that little bit more. So that's what tells me I'm going in the right direction when I listen to it a beat, and every time I want to nod my head more. So yeah, let's put it back a little bit, and I'm gonna play it again. Think about what words you would use to describe the mixed version, and what you would use to describe the not unmixed, but Gustav's mix. Here we go.
Meine Angst, dich zu lieben, dich zu küssen, halt mich fest. Meine Seele, stark verschlissen, durchzogen von Teer und Pest. Jetzt stehst du vor mir, ich erblicke deine Augen.
Okay, before now.
Ihre Tiefe, löscht mich rein, lässt mich scheinen, ganz unverhofft.
After.
Doch bin ich da, bei mir allein, meine Gedanken fallen tief. Visionen, Düster sind in Albträume, als ob ich schlief. Weck mich auf,
Before.
zieh mich raus, mit dem Haken in meinem Herz. Mein
After.
Gehirn ist mein Feind, meine Gedanken purer Schmerz.
So when I was mixing this, what I really wanted to do is glue it together. Clearly this has an influence from Joy Division and post-punk, new wave kind of music. So I didn't want to get too far away from that either. I just wanted to put a bit of a sheen on it and make it feel more aggressive, and control the dynamics a bit. So I think you can get a lot out of a mix by compressing it, as long as you don't overdo it. It can be really powerful in terms of making everything glued together a bit more aggressive and in your face. And so that's one of the big things I did. Now we're going to start from the top, and we're going to look at the drums and bass first. So starting with the drums. Oh, we've got more processing here. Let's turn all of that off as well. So starting on the channel level, I just wanted to immediately add some drive. So I added the Sound Toys Decapitator. Very subtle. Just look at the mix knob here. I'm not slamming it. Just sits forward a little bit. And then the next important thing is just reverb. And setting the reverb time here is a matter of matching the tempo. Okay, and then we'll quickly look at the bass now. So let's turn off the effects we have here. Oops. And just hear the bass plain as it came in. And normally when I mean, basically, first of all, it sounds really good and clean and nice. Now, on a bass guitar, you'll often see a curve like this where you're trying to bring out the pluck. So that's what you hear when I bring that in. And then I wanted to cut some sub bass and leave room for the kick down there. And you get some of that dirty string noise as well, and there's no problem with that. It sounds good to me. And then just a little bit of light compression too, because you can see from the waveform itself that there isn't a big wild dynamic on this bass. It doesn't need to be controlled massively, so I'm just tickling the needle, as they say, and allowing like a 10 millisecond attack. That's going to allow quite a lot of the signal through, and a medium release as well. Then, so that was the basic setup for the drums and bass. And then I decided to send them both to the same channel. And so I did more work on them here. So let's just turn off all my stuff here first. So the first thing I did was I added this Lindell Channel X. I've got a low boost here and a high boost. You can see it's 60 hertz and 10 kilohertz. And I've got a compressor hitting. It's tuned so that only the snare is triggering because I didn't actually want to compress the kick because it already sounded good, whereas the snare sounded a bit sharp and like it needed to be pushed back a little bit. So let's hear it without. Yep. And then I wanted that pumping the bass as well. So because they both pass through this processor, the bass gets ducked every time the snare hits. And what happens is it creates interaction between the different tracks. And this interaction is really compelling. It creates movement and it's much more interesting. So that's the reason for that. And then obviously all of these tracks go to the master track and get bus compressed with everything else. So everything is reacting to each other in terms of level because of the compression. They're all going through compression. And they're all going through that compression together. So everything gets pumped and moved, and we'll hear more of that later. So next thing, just a very basic rebalance there. Still feeling like the snare and the hats were too harsh. So tiny little cut, and then bringing out the body of the snare down here and bringing out some bass as well here. A-B that. Pretty simple. Small moves are nice sometimes. Okay guys, we're gonna have a look at the guitars now. So I'll just play the full track when the guitars come in. Okay. So, basic approach is that I have individual effects on each track, and then it's all going into a bus where it's getting extra processing. I've cut the low end out of all the guitars. This is for a particular vibe that you would get with Joy Division and The Cure. Most records that were made in those days had a hell of a lot of the low end cut out of them. So that's what I've done here to kind of hark back to that feel. And then I'm compressing everything just to help me with the level. And yeah, to help me kind of stabilize the level of the guitars, even though it's switching between different parts. And yeah, so let's just start from the first track here. And I'm going to turn off the bus processing. And I'll turn off the processing on this track as well. So obviously it's meant to sound aggressive and a bit psychedelic, I think. So first step for me, I just wanted to add a little movement with a flanger, because it kind of makes it sound quasi out of tune and creates cool effects. So I just think that sounds cool. And then with the EQ, I'm just cutting out the very high end because it's nothing but noise up there. Gives the song a smoother feel when you do that. Digital guitars, I don't know how this was recorded, but things recorded digitally, they retain a lot of the high end that a tape would cut out, you know? So we just have to go in and cut those things manually sometimes if we want it to sound a bit more analog. Yeah, just a flanger and a high pass, a low pass filter. That's it on this guy. And this guy's pretty similar. Low pass filter, tiny cut in the high mids, and a phaser again. So Guitar Rig allows you to create this split. So I just create a wet dry mix for this phaser and just had a bit of it mixed in. Yeah, that's it really. And then those guys go to the bus processing and get the low end cut out and get some compression. Let's hear all that together. And if I take out this, so they just glue together a little bit that way. And then the compression just helps me with the overall level as different parts come in. It smooths out the changes that you would get with new parts coming in. But let's just check this part out and we'll just leave the processing on. So what did I do? Not an awful lot. Again, a kind of chorusy thing with this Soundtoys micro shift. And then an extra low cut here. Listen with that. So it actually cleans up a bit more when you cut out that low end. And I think that's just because it was, he's playing multiple notes at the same time and that creates different tones. If you don't know what those are, you should look them up. They're what is created when you play two notes at the same time and run that through distortion. A lot of difference tones, inharmonic difference tones are created. And so I just cut out some extra low end and that reduces that problem. And then, yeah, let's just listen to this chorus here. subtle amount. So if you add too much into the mix, it takes away from the aggression. So I'm just using it to widen and make it more interesting. Then on the same part later, this filter delay comes in, with different delay times for the left and right side. The center is actually off, so I just have a left and right. So it creates width, you know. And for a later part in the song, that's kind of what I'm looking for. You can also see that I clip gained that up. It's a bit louder than the first time around. So let's hear that. Let's hear it in context, actually. And cut out all the effects on this. Just a bit flat, a bit lifeless. More atmospheric now, but not a huge difference either. We're going for baby steps here. Yeah, so that's about it. This guy, just a bit of delay and low cut and a high cut, cut some presence. Let's just A/B that. So my EQ there pushes it back because anything that has a lot of energy in this area around 3K really jumps to the front of the mix. And I didn't necessarily want this for this part. And then just a bit of delay, you know, not a lot going on there. So let's move on. Time for vocals. And now the vocals came to me with effects on already. So I didn't have to do an awful lot to them because Gustav had already decided on the style. And this is an interesting thing when you're choosing, if you're going to work with a mix engineer, you need to make the decision on when to leave effects on and when to leave effects off. On this occasion, Gustav has left them on because they give a certain feel, and he didn't want me to go and try and recreate that feel and maybe miss the mark. Because if I miss the mark, then there's going to be back and forth between us. And I can't read his mind exactly. So he knew what he wanted and he sent it to me. So I'm just going to play exactly what he sent, and then I'll tell you what I was able to do to address a couple of issues and make it cut a little bit more. We'll play it with the entire mix on first, but no effects.
Mich zu stellen mit all meinen Problemen. Doch du kommst mir entgegen auf all meinen Wegen. Meine Angst, mich zu zeigen, ich weiß oft nicht, wie ich fühle.
So first of all, you can hear there's some clipping there around this area, and I let it stay in. I could have gone and fixed it, but again, just because of the vibe of this song, harking back to Joy Division and The Cure, just let that kind of lo-fi feel stay. You know, you don't need to fix everything all the time, and that's part of the reason why I love this kind of music. It's a bit dirty and gritty, and yeah, I like it.
Mich zu stellen mit all meinen Problemen. Doch du kommst
So
mir entgegen
reverb already
auf all
on,
meinen Wegen. Meine
and then this kind of
Angst,
form
mich
and
zu zeigen,
shifted
ich weiß oft nicht, wie ich fühl. Doch Geduld, dick ist dein Wesen,
vocal as well.
ruhig voll Taktgefühl.
Okay, so what I noticed, and I mean, if you're looking at my EQ, you'll see what I thought. So there was too much in the low mids. It sounded too... So you can see from my EQ what I was thinking here with the vocal. There was too much low mids, and so it was drowning in the mix. You need this area to cut through in a mix, and this area can often just add mud or not enough clarity. If there's too much here, it doesn't sound clear enough. Now, this is murky kind of music, so you don't want to cut it all out, and you can hear the way that he's singing even emphasizes that sort of low mid area. But let's hear what I did with the EQ. So it's a little quieter. Just pushing this all back and pushing this forward a bit. Yeah, pretty simple, you know. He already did the work because he chose the reverb and he chose the feel. But then I wanted a little more atmosphere, so I added some delay. And I've got this very chorusy kind of delay called the Memory Man, based on the guitar pedal of the Memory Man. So have a listen. Delay time is like 160 milliseconds. So a kind of slapback delay is what I would call this.
Mich zu stellen mit all meinen Problemen. Doch du kommst mir entgegen auf all meinen Wegen. Meine Angst, mich zu zeigen, ich weiß oft nicht, wie ich fühle.
Yeah, so I just really liked that. I thought it basically fit with the track. It's basically of that time, that kind of effect. And then I did end up using this cassette thing on the vocal. So let's have a listen to what I did with that.
Mich zu stellen mit all meinen Problemen. Doch du kommst mir entgegen auf all meinen Wegen.
So again, I made it quieter with this. I sometimes do that when I feel like the vocal is pushing out too far in front of the mix. I'll use an effect to make it quieter. Basically, all it's doing is kind of cutting low end, but then it also has this noise reduction compression algorithm. This is based on noise reduction circuits on cassette players and tape machines that reduce noise. But what they did actually is they compressed the signal and then expand it again, and it creates a crazy effect. So that's what I did. You know, I really like this effect, and it adds a lot of brightness. So we'll A/B that on and off. So first we're getting the tape vibe of like cutting a lot of high end and making it sound lo-fi, and then we add in some high end compression. Just it's like multi-band compression, and it just adds brightness.
Mit all meinen Problemen. Doch du kommst mir entgegen auf all meinen Wegen. Meine Angst, mich zu zeigen.
Yeah. So then did I add some? No, I didn't really add any pitch shifting. I just added a little bit of this dropouts, so as if it were a really old tape. Just add to the feel, add a little grit to the tracks. That's what I love to do with a song like this, you know, where it's appropriate. And then I just needed a little bit of compression as well. I needed to level the sound so that it didn't get too loud or too quiet. Reasonably fast attack at 3 milliseconds. On a vocal, that's medium fast. And then the release, 200 milliseconds, is fairly standard. Not too aggressive. The shorter you go with this, the more aggressive it'll get. And I didn't need to bring out any more aggression
mich zu stellen mit all
in the mix now.
Problemen. Doch du kommst mir entgegen auf all meinen Wegen. Meine Angst, mich zu zeigen.
Yeah. So now we're listening to the entire mix now. No guitars in the mix yet. So everything's in. This is the finished mix we're listening to now. So let's just look at one of the other important things here, which is the parallel compression. So let's hear the parallel compression soloed. Quite aggressive, but it's quite low. Not an awful lot of compression here, at 6 dB at most. And I've turned up the input gain. So this model's a analog preamplifier, so it would just add a little bit of distortion. So I've got that cranked a little bit, and not that much gain reduction, but the attack on C and the release is on fast, so that makes it quite aggressive. And then we're adding it into everything else. And if I mute it, all that you hear is the loss of a little bit of weight. And this was another area where I really half wanted to add a shit ton of that compression to this mix, because it gives that really aggressive feel, but it's always a balancing act. Since we're here, I can add that in, and we'll see how it increases that perceived aggression. So let's just try that. Like, so dense now. It's addictive, you know, because we're adding level, and anytime you add level, you think it sounds better, because as a human being, we like it better when we add level. Okay, so we're going to go into the master bus processing now. All the effects off except the limiter that just sets the level. And then even the parallel compression is also off. Let's have a listen. Sounds good. Add in parallel. Feeling good. Now, this guy is adding low end and adding high end. Let's hear it before and after. It actually jumps up in level quite a lot there, driving through the analog circuitry here. But it definitely gains some solidity in the low end, and that's what I was after there. And so now we're going into the next Lindell processor, which is the compressor. Let's have a listen. It's off right now. So it gained level again. So at this point, I'll turn this guy on to compensate for all that level, and we'll bypass them both. Okay, that's a lot more fair as a comparison. So it's glued. It's just glued more. Everything reacts to each other a little bit more when the compressor is in, because everything is reacting to the same gain reduction threshold. and that's what creates a gluing effect. I think it also has a degree of saturation that that glues things together as well. So compression also adds a bit of density, and it feels a little bit more sparse without it. Yeah, and the real final touch here is just some saturation. I actually didn't have that on 100%. Originally, I have that on 25%. The mix amount is 25% on this master channel. So it's off now. Okay, so we're just adding some grit. Let's go back. You know, that really adds quite a lot of glue in and of itself too. Because it reduces the transients. It squashes them back into the body of the track rather than letting them spike up above the music. And that's actually a cool effect sometimes, but you just have to be conscious of it. Cool. So I'm going to leave it at that. I will put up the mix on my SoundCloud for the time being, so you guys can check it out again. I hope that you learned something, and we're going to have that Q&A right now after the chat. So yeah. So come along, ask a question, tell me what you noticed, what you liked, what you didn't like, and see what you can apply to your own music. All right, let's do it. Catch you later. Yo, so that was it. We got a few questions, and that is great. Thank you so much for listening. Let me just see. Great. So we have a few questions to go through, and we can do that now. If anyone has any further comments that you'd like to leave right now, we can probably. I'd love to get any more of your impression, or what you learned, or what was good, or what you didn't get, just because I want to make sure you guys are picking up what I'm trying to teach. So yeah, let me see. Afu Pix has another question about plugins. Cool, so let's talk about plugins then, since that seems to be the hot topic. Yes, I do use quite a few third-party plugins, but on the other hand, the plugins in Ableton or in Logic or other DAWs are generally very good. It's just that they give you one palette to work with. If you're an artist, you want lots of different paintbrushes, you want lots of different colors, and the third-party plugins are made by independent companies, some of them very small. They're artists in their own right, curating great effects. And so what I do is I go out and I listen to a lot of effects. I watch a lot of YouTube tutorials on different effects, and if something sounds really like it might take my mixes to the next level, then I'll go for it. Personally, I really love those two Lindell effects. They're just things I came across in doing my research on what to use. So let me see. I love this guy, the Lindell Channel X, and so it's got a EQ and a preamp at the start, and it's got a compressor in the middle, and then another EQ at the end, and these are very sweet EQs. So if I play this, I'm going to play Heno's track into this now. Ah, no, I'm not yet. So go back to the start and go to the middle. Tell me if the level is too loud here. I'm not sure how it is, but if I go in here and crank the high boost, it actually still sounds really nice even though I'm adding a ton of high end. So some plugins can give you something extra. However, I really do like the Ableton EQ for more precise work. You know, the Lindell one is good for broad tone shaping rather than precise little notches and cuts that you can make with the Ableton one. So I mean, the answer in general is just Heno, thank you for the note on the level. It's just a matter of adding extra colors, and I've been doing this quite a long time, so over that time I've picked up different things that I like. Yeah, let me see. So some plugins that are great to check out. Native Instruments, obviously they're great. Plugins by Plugin Alliance are great as well. Never pay full price for these things, by the way. They are almost always on sale, so you can, like, most of what I get is bought very cheaply, and it's good to add one plugin at a time to your arsenal, because then you can understand it and really appreciate it. If you get 100 plugins new, well, you're just not going to have enough time to really get to know everything. So I don't particularly recommend that. Let's talk about parallel compression now, because it's a really powerful technique, and somebody was telling me I think Serhi was telling me they don't really like or don't really understand it. So quick answer to this question by AfuPix. This is the Lindell Channel X, and then this is the Lindell 254. Both made by Plugin Alliance. Yeah, okay. And we'll be looking at the Lindell Channel X again now. So I'm gonna solo the parallel channel. I'm using the sends to send signal to the parallel channel, which is on a return track. Okay, mostly return tracks are used for reverb or delay, but I'm using this one on this occasion for parallel compression. So I've just got that soloed here, and let's see what we're actually doing to the signal. So we're just hitting it pretty hard, and if I bypass just this effect, we just have a quieter version of the mix. Adding the compression as a parallel thing means that I can add a very over-compressed signal to the dry signal. So we have super compressed and then dry, and we mix them together, and that gives us kind of the best of both worlds, because you get the original signal and then you also get the super compressed, dense pumping signal as well mixed in. So I'm gonna do that move again where I'll take the parallel compression out completely, and then I'm gonna fade it back in. And what you should notice is just a feeling of density and thickness, and everything is just going to be a little bit louder and more in your face. That's a good spot. It's distorting it as well because it's getting too loud for the master channel. Cool. So you can do that on a track as well. You can do that with any of Ableton's devices as well, like the glue compressor. Let's stick the glue compressor on here. So it has a wet dry knob as well, so that you can just stick it on a track and do parallel compression right there. So we might as well just have a go at doing that with the glue compressor. Heno specifically asked me about the glue compressor. I think it's great. It is very clean and adds a lot of character, and I use it, when I'm using Ableton. I use it as part of my arsenal of effects. So it's super helpful as part of my palette, But then I use other effects as well as part of my palette. When I want something a little bit more thick and old school and distorted, I use this guy. When I want something cleaner, I use the glue. But let's try it on the master output of this track. I'm gonna set a slower attack here because I want the signal to punch before I compress. Let's go. Add a little bit of how much makeup. I normally add about as much makeup gain Heno as I reduce gain, so I'm just using it to try to level match. I'm trying to make it so that when I take the effect in or out, it's a similar level so that I don't get fooled. I mean, right there, that's quite useful on a driving track like this. I'm finding that quite good. So without it, it's less reactive. Now it's more driven and more aggressive, and I like it. I would totally use that at this on this track. Yeah, it's absolutely an option, and a very good option at that. Now, Giuseppe had a question, a couple of questions, but one is about the master bus. Shouldn't you leave that for the mastering engineer? So there's a few different opinions about this, but my feeling is that you shouldn't just leave it for the mastering engineer. You can accelerate your results, get better results in less time by adding master bus effects. My normal workflow is that I get the mix into good shape. I use EQ and compression on the tracks where necessary to make things fit and start working. And then once everything is kind of under control, I add a master bus compressor and maybe a few other things. I'll add EQ, saturation, anything else that I feel is going to improve the sound. I pretty much do anything that I think is going to improve the sound. And then if I'm working with another mastering engineer and sending it off to mastering, I will send him my finished mix with all the effects. And then if I've used anything really extreme that he might not want, then I will just, I'll send him a version without that heavy effect as well. Okay. But the mastering engineer's job is about balance. If he's mastering 4 songs for your EP, he might be balancing all of those songs sonically across the spectrum to make them match each other, and then choosing the final loudness of everything as well is the mastering engineer's job. It does not mean that we can't add effects to the master channel, because it's, you know, that's fair game to me, and produces really great results. Yeah, so we're coming up to time now. Giuseppe also had one other question about stereo width. I didn't go into stereo width on this mix, but let's just have a quick experiment with the Ableton EQ. I'll share my screen again now. I think I didn't share it the last time, but never mind. So let's try the Ableton EQ in mid-side mode, and I'm going to use it to see if there's any side channel area that I'd like to boost here. Let's have a listen. So if you hear that there, you probably notice not a lot of change when I boosted there. Even when I boosted quite a lot, I'm not hearing an awful lot of change. So maybe that's something I could have addressed and added some more stereo width in other ways, in other places. I did add some in parts with the delay on the guitars. I used the Ableton filter delay to add a lot of width on this guitar track. And that was very effective. So I mean, there's a lot of different ways you can add width. It's maybe not specific enough a question that I can answer straight away. And then now I guess we're coming up on time, so I think we will leave it there, because no other super pressing concerns coming up. AfuPix asks, any little recommendation about basic plugins that are great to use in Ableton? Well, so you might mean beyond the stock plugins. If I were you, I would choose, well, first of all, the new Ableton delay is really amazing. I would get to know that quite well, because it has really great features. And then beyond that, well, what do you want to do? Do you want to get into mixing more, or do you want to get into new instruments? So if you want new instruments, native instruments are amazing. Or if you want to get into mixing more, a channel strip from Plugin Alliance or from Waves would be a good shout, I would say. Let me see now. So we'll leave it there, guys. Thank you so much for coming. It's been a pleasure. And we will be here again for the next 3 Wednesdays. I hope you'll all come along. I hope you try some of these techniques in your own music, and tell us about the results. Stay in touch on the Facebook event. I will be posting further stuff there, and keeping you up to date. So that's it. thank you so much. Jana Foley, thank you. Cool, guys. Thank you. Peace.